Chaps, how are we? I hope you're all very, 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 very well. And you're very, very welcome to this week's Sunday Sessions with what? Rafe Hubris, BA OXON. As ever, we will be conducting the Q&A at Don's YouTube. So feel free to ask any questions that you may have in the chat box there. I am very excited. You are very welcome. It's Sunday night. Let's do this. Now, as I'm sure you'll all be aware, we have reached a grim milestone this week. 100K deaths, 100,000 people have died. And that's a lot of people. That's 100,000 mothers, fathers, sisters, sons, daughters, mentors, riding instructors, sommeliers, groundskeepers, and rowing coaches. I mean, not obviously 100,000 of each, like 100,000 cumulatively. If you add them all up, you get the big, sandbag numero 100. It's important that we understand these numbers, chaps. It's very important. I mean, if I was paid £1 for each coronavirus death, then I'd be on less than what I'm actually on. I mean, I'd be furious. But luckily I'm paid very, very well, and that's fine. But they are serious numbers. They're big numbers. 100,000 is roughly the size of not Exeter College, Oxford. Obviously, that would. That really would be a disaster. No. But Exeter, by which I mean the township near Cornwall, I think. But that's that gives you a sense of the size. But listen, I want to speak directly, to those that have died. We're very, very sorry, and we'd like to take full responsibility for anyone who feels that they've died of coronavirus. But we did sort of do everything that we could, to improve things. And actually, if you look at sort of death in other areas, we've actually kind of smashed it, because death is way down, in terms of car accidents and drowning and diagnosed cancers. So kind of on the whole, I think we've done very, very well. And I guess sort of what I would say is that the government giveth and the government taketh away. I think that's really worth bearing in mind. Anyway, in order to sort of mitigate this ongoing problem, we've decided it's kind of broadly because you're not following our advice. So we've actually created a government video about the importance of hands, space, face that we will now play for you.
This is a message from the government.
Hi, I'm Rafe Hubris, BA OXON, and I'm the lead advisor to the government. Despite the slogan being 3 one-syllable words, the high case numbers would clearly suggest the majority of the UK population aren't bright enough to understand what hands, face, space means.
Oh, I can't understand what hands, face, space means. That's too complicated for my brain.
Today, I'd like to clear up any confusion. Hands. This means wash your hands. Obviously. You should do this when you come back home, like I can be seen doing here after a quiet, COVID-compliant dinner with 12 of my closest friends.
Oh, I've just come in the front door. I must remember to wash my hands. In fact, I'll do that now.
Face. Coronavirus is respiratory, which means it's to do with your lungs. Lungs are what help you breathe. This means the virus spreads via exhalation, which means breathing out. So wear a mask before you go to Whole Foods, like this, but not like this. You don't need to look like a budget NHS surgeon wearing one either. You can buy all kinds of sharp and classic designs online. Space. Try to keep 2 meters of space between you and everybody else. You can practice this in your house, like I'm doing here with this decanter. So stop fucking this up, chaps. Hands, face, space. Obviously.
A pretty recognizable face in that. Anyway, do remember to keep asking your questions in the chat box on YouTube. In other news, there are some quite exciting new COVID variants that we need to tackle. So there's the UK variant, there's the South African variant, and very excitingly, there's the Brazilian variant, which Matt Cock in his hands will be viewing as a ticket to get another 10 days off work, I imagine. But to mitigate this issue, we are introducing hotel quarantining to further our commitment to ending freedom of movement, to include mutant viruses, as well as refugees and starving children. So, yeah, for the many of you who won't have heard of, or let alone, stayed in, an Ibis, a Bouget, or a travel lodge, I'm very pleased to announce the publication sorry, of a government endorsed guide on how to deal with 2-star living. The guide, which is available on gov.uk, I will sort of fully brief you on how to deal with no room service, sort of how to give yourself a massage, and what the little round capsules with milk on them are, and how to use them. I know that so few of us are asking for so little from so few, but I say to you all, step up, lie down in your Ibis, and think of England or Dubai or wherever it is you've come from. Finally, we hope to gradually reopen schools from the 8th of March, and we'll be doing this in alphabetical order. So starting on the 8th, it'll be Ampleforth, then on the 9th, Bedales, 10th, Charterhouse, 11th, Downside, and then Eton on the 12th, once we know everything is safe. I know some of you will be concerned about the reopening of state schools because, inevitably the traffic will be horrendous. But there's no need to worry because we've got Gavin Williamson on the case. And, actually, U-turns are quite a good way to get out of a traffic jam. Anyway, onto the death graphs. If you can get the first graph up, please. Thanks very much. Okay, so as you can see there, that's COVID vaccination doses. And look at who's at number 1. Fucking hell, we're smashing that. Literally, look at all the EU countries below us that look like absolute shit. I mean, all you bloody Europhiles, look who's fucking winning the day, all right? Spain down there, near the middle, bloody too busy having a siesta and eating chorizo to vaccinate. I mean, look at France at the bottom. I suppose if you're having 4 or 5 affairs in a day, you can't get a lot done. Although, to be fair, Blojo does manage it. But no, I think it's pretty amusing that there are more people at Magdalen College, Oxford, that have been given the vaccine than the entirety of Poland. Although that said, most of Poland do actually work at Magdalen College, Oxford as staff. And actually, they do a brilliant job, so that we really do value them. Okay, next graph, please. So this next graph coming up is the number of hospitalizations with COVID. So if you look at the left-hand side, sort of steady increase, and then in Jan, quite a sharp increase. But look at it now, the right side of the graph, we're over the bloody hill, right out of the woods, So well done us, I think we bloody smashed it. But, where have we come from? Let's talk a little bit about how we got to this stage. I want to make this incredibly easy for everyone to understand by referencing something that we all know a lot about and have experienced a great deal. So on to the third graph, please. That thing, of course, is skiing. But, we were, obviously, if you go back to the first graph, the second graph, rather, please. So obviously, things were very steep in January. We were on a black run. Now back to the skiing. We were on a black run, which is very bad. I mean, obviously, black is bad in that sense, but not across the board. We're very supportive of. It's great, but not there. And then sort of now it's like a green gradient, but it's like gone the other way. So like in a positive direction. So like maybe that's like even a new color like mauve or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean on the whole, it's looking fucking great. We're doing a brilliant job. So let's all breathe a sigh of relief and let's take some questions from the journalists. And do remember to keep putting your questions down the chat box on YouTube. I shall endeavor to correct your grammar in due course, but I think we've got some journalist questions. Tom's a bit keen apparently on the YouTube chat. So
can I ask you, how did you come to the date of March the 8th for what you've said is your hope for schools to start reopening? You do have a reputation for optimism. That's no insult, but parents are going to be hanging on that, as you well know. It's 5.5 weeks away. They're going to be incredibly disappointed if they don't see schools reopen from March the 8th, as also you well know. So it might not be wiser, if a little bit miserable, to just wait until you were sure.
Well, I mean, let me just say, let me just do a little bit of groundskeeping and decorum on how these work. When I'm talking, I haven't finished, okay? So you need to make sure that you wait, ask your question after I finish talking. I'm the big dog here, okay? So bear that in mind. Your question, I believe, was, why not just wait until the 8th of March? Look, Blojo does have a bit of a reputation for disappointing parents. We all know that, often the parents of his own children. But also, at the same time, Blojo doesn't do things unless he's absolutely sure. For example, unless there's a occlusive DNA test, he will not pay. So I think, we're going to have to sort of prioritize both those two things at the same time, and try and embed that philosophy somehow in what we do in some sort of sense. Newton Dunn is a funny name. Newton Dunn's a funny name. Is that your son? I imagine your son's Harry. We used to Harry Newton Dunn from Eton. We used to bully him like no one's business. It's hilarious. Anyway, don't ask a question like that again. Will Gooderin from YouTube. Rafe, I have 2 questions. Cocky. Number 1, how are you? Yeah, I'm very well. I'm very, very, very well, actually. I've been a lot of socializing recently, but very well. Second, lowest amount you've spent on a shop. Well, I mean, I've bought quite a few shops using my trust fund. Sorry. I don't think. I mean, it depends on the thing. Like, Debenhams, like, you can buy that for like a couple of £100. So I will be in the market for something like that. But not a huge amount. A couple of £100,000 or sort of the average thing. But you'd have to ask my accountant. Alex Harris has got a question. Alex.
Hi there, Rafe. Yes. So obviously we had a lot of shenanigans this week with Europe talking about our vaccine, and I know Michael Gove said yesterday that we're going to reset after they decided not to do anything with Northern Ireland. But what we all want to know really is what retaliatory actions do you really have planned for Europe, and how are we going to deal with them?
Well, Alex, thanks very much for asking that question from the BDSM dungeon you're coming to me from. Listen, I think it's what sort of retaliatory action do we have planned against Europe? I think stuff to do with fish. The stuff we've got as a result of fish with Brexit. It was great. So there's got to be something we can do on that. To be honest, haven't looked into this a great deal. Govey sort of is a bit of a loose cannon, as well we know. So what he's got up to, I can't always control. But So I mean, would you mind sort of maybe sort of clarify a little bit more? Your question went a bit quiet. Could you just re-ask? What exactly do you want to know me?
Well, I want to know what we're going to do to retaliate against the likes of Macron telling us that our vaccine doesn't work. You guys at Oxford.
Hey, sorry, can I ask what crest is that? What university is that crest? That looks. It doesn't look like one.
It's Lions Rugby. So, come on, this is basic. This is basic stuff.
Oh, it's Lions. Okay, that doesn't sound like a fee-paying school. Sorry, mate, I can't answer your question. Let's move on to YouTube. Amanda Katrina 1 on YouTube says, Rafe, do you think all MPs should get the vaccine before teachers so they can continue to do that very, very essential work? I mean, you're absolutely right to ask that question. And I mean, if the MPs were to get the vaccine before the teachers, would that be a good thing? I don't know, but I think certainly, if it had already happened, for example, that might be a good idea. I mean, the thing about teachers is they're sort of a dime a dozen, fuck them, basically. They don't really matter. So, I think, are we more important than teachers? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as George Orwell once said, some animals are more equal than others. Now, we're not animals. Well, I mean, we are on a night out. But fundamentally, we matter more. So, yes, is my answer to that question. Neil Richards from The Independent has a question here.
Yesterday, you said that you've done everything in your power you did everything you possibly could to tackle the COVID pandemic. But of course, you've been criticized for a number of things, including introducing the lockdown quite late, taking 3 months to introduce the quarantine, not sacking Dominic Cummings, ignoring SAGE's advice about bringing in a lockdown in the autumn, and also allowing bubbles to form over Christmas for families against the advice of your own scientists. You've said you take responsibility for your handling of the crisis, but do you think any of those specific things were a mistake?
God, Neil, what a question! What detail! What an impressive research you put into that. God, you must be a scholar. Well done. No, it's an important question you raised, and I'd just like to sort of say now. Let me be absolutely clear, Neil. Let me be absolutely clear. What I think is that is such an important question, and not only is that question important, but the general questions in that family of questions are absolutely essential for us to think about, talk about, and indeed answer at some point. Though I won't be able to answer your specific question right now, I am so committed to answering questions just like that at some point, and would like to pledge to do that today. Keep those questions coming in on YouTube. I believe Tom99_DF DCFC. It's maybe no, I thought it might be Down House, but it's not. It's DC. David Cameron Football Club. I don't know. He asked, "Hi Rafe, what more would you personally like to see done to improve the lives of those living in Stoke?" He's clearly a satirist, this chap. Very, very good. As if there's anything we'd like to see done more to the people in Stoke. I mean, ideally less. I mean, just cut it off. Cut it off. It doesn't matter. Besides Robbie Williams, I can't think of anything that's come out of Stoke that's half decent. So, I think just, like good economics, get rid of it. Doesn't matter. Matt Wayne has a question. Matt.
Hi, Raf. Thank you ever so much for having me on tonight. I really do appreciate the work that you're doing with the government. Obviously, the vaccines are rolling out and they're brilliant. My father's getting his vaccination tomorrow. On the topic of that, what's your favorite dinosaur and why?
Well, chap, you called me Raf. The name is Rafe. It's very clearly advertised on this, and it's very clearly written on LinkedIn. If you're going to ask me a question, especially one as innocuous and asinine as that, I would suggest that you actually learn to pronounce my name properly. Okay, I think we've got other questions in. We've had, I think we've got, is it Neil Richards from The Independent? I believe we've had Neil Richards from The Independent. Is it Rafe Richards from The Times?
Sure, plan B. Is it just keeping restrictions for longer? And finally, just a little postscript question. On a practical level, last week you had a really good week for first doses on the vaccination. This week they've dropped. I just wondered why that is. Is it the supply? Is it the weather? Something else?
Well, Rafe, thank you very much for that question. Great name, by the way. What I would say, that's how you pronounce Rafe, by the way, properly. What I would say on that, and people might not have picked up the first bit of your question. You asked, is there a plan B from the government? And to that, I would say, absolutely not. I mean, as anyone who can see what we're doing, it's going very well, and we're a grade A government. We're a class A government. But that actually leads me very neatly on to your question about supply. As anyone who has ever sourced powders and chowders on the reg will know, that there can be issues down the supply chain, and that's what I would attribute to this shortage in vaccinations. Thank you very much, and great name. Now, Jamie K on YouTube asks, what do you recommend for people to do to pass the time whilst in a quarantine hotel? Now, Jamie, I have to be honest, as I said at the top, I've never been to an Ibis or a Bouget, or indeed a travel lodge. That is very much sounds like a prison sentence to me. But yes, I believe, you could sort of get loads and loads of tea bags and create some sort of tea bag monster. Depends who you're with as well. If you're with your mum, then you're going to have to find sort of crafty ways to masturbate. If you're not, then it might be a little bit easier. So have a think about that. I'm not the oracle as far as that goes, because I'm from the sort of social class that you wouldn't go back to that sort of place. So Alex Robertson has asked, what do you think of an independent Scotland? Yeah, no, I mean that is an interesting question. Nicola Sturgeon is a bit of a pain in the fucking ass, or she's very grumpy. The Scotch egg, as we call her. Don't tell her that. The problem is if we do go independent, then we don't get to continue to sort of take credit for Andy Murray and Chris Hoy and people like that. So I say keep it, so we can just sort of keep pretending that those Scots are English. Alexander James has a question. Alexander.
Hi, Rafe. My question kind of carries on from what's just been asked. Obviously, right now we seem to have a bit of a domestic crisis. There are cries for an independent Scotland as well as a united Ireland. So my question is, how would the current government try to tackle this potential issue, and what's their vision for the long-term future of the UK?
Christ, you're coming to me from a rather big place. Goodness gracious me, where is that? Is that somewhere in Scotland itself, or are you doing the accent as a joke?
It's in Inverness. It's probably about as far north as you could possibly get. So
yes. No, my family owns one of the islands. I think I mentioned on the previous conferences. So I'm very aware of Inverness's existence. Kind of, as you say, following on from that, what's the plan? I mean, I think as long as we can keep Scotland, but actually maybe sort of divorcing England. I mean, it works so well with Brexit that maybe, what if we do that? What if we sort of cut Scotland off, and get them sort of fend for themselves? But I've sort of wanted to do that with the North for a really, really long time as well. So I'm actually a very big advocate for that, and I think it works incredibly well. But mate, sorry, I'm kind of bewitched by your curtains. It looks like sort of dirty underwear that you've hung up from a curtain rail. What's happening there? Where did you get those from?
You'll have to ask house management. They're not my curtains.
You have to. God, are you in an institution?
It sometimes feels that way, yes.
Crikey, I don't want to get into that. Okay, yeah, that sounds a little bit upsetting. Laura Koonsberg from the BBC, I believe you have a question. Laura, good old Laura. Safe, dependable Laura.
Near the start, the hope in government was to contain the numbers to 20,000. It's now 5 times that. What went so wrong?
Laura, what the fuck? Like, you're supposed to work for us. What the fuck was that? You're our mole. You're our Tory mole on the inside of the BBC. Mate, what went so wrong? You are literally, on top of Andy Murray and Chris Hoy, you are like, I used you as an example of why Scottish independence would be a bad thing, potentially, in Queen's Club the other day. But you can't fucking do that. If you want to be commissioner of the BBC one day, you cannot piss us off. Fucking journalist. No, I won't be answering that. Next question is from Matt Kelly on YouTube, who said, how often are you planning to ping the shadow cabinet using the COVID app? Matt, that is a very, very good suggestion. What a classic suggestion. Mate, I think I could get Starmer like 4 times in a day. That'd be so funny. I mean, he looks like he's just shat himself all the time anyway. So imagine how he looked being pinged on the COVID app. I mean, he looked more worried than cock in his hands. I mean, that's not that Labour do anything particularly meaningful. I mean, they just agree with everything we've done, basically. So getting them out of action is not really going to achieve anything. But I think that's definitely something that me, Poppy, Hugo, Floppy, Missy, and Flissy will be looking into at CCH2 come Monday. Pirehawk has a question. Will Bully Patel be making sure to deport anyone who is diagnosed with foreign variants of COVID? That's a great suggestion. Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, though, you've got to consider, like South Africa. There's a lot of colonial influence from South Africa. So, that's actually, I think it would be against the empire, to get rid of people with the South African variant. Brazil, absolutely, fuck it, get rid of them, unless it's the, Brazilian beach volleyball team, in which case, Blojo would be keen. Although I don't think there's necessarily, a link between that and the virus. But it's certainly something to look into. I'm sure Bully Patel's got some blueprints sorted out in her dungeon. So I will definitely mention that to her. But I think, to do it with South Africa is anti-colonialist, and we love the empire. I mean, it's a great institution. Think of all the railways. Sam Coates from Sky News has got a question. Sam.
We truly did everything we could to save lives. Do you really not reflect on whether some of those 100,000 deaths could have been prevented if you'd made decisions differently?
Would things be different if they were different? Yes, obviously, mate. What kind of fucking question is that? Like, could you be a better journalist if you weren't so whingy? Yes. I mean, mate, you're evidently talking to me, right? You exist, you live, you're alive, you're not dead, right? What have you got to fucking complain about? Like, apart from being, having a fucking schlid and being a moron. I'm not answering the question. I think it's journalists are a fucking disgrace, mate. Every week, it's the same last week as well. Poppy, you need to vet these guys. They're choppers. Rory from YouTube says, Rafe, I'm planning on having a quick ski trip. What's the lowest number of stars of a hotel you'd advise to isolate in on return? Or is there any way around it? Well, Rory, it depends what kind of chap you are. If I'm thinking of Rory Harrington, who I was at school with, then I'm sure I can sort something out for you, mate. No problem at all. I mean, I personally wouldn't advise going in anything less than I mean, a 4 at an absolute push, because, you feel pretty depressed in those, really. But I wouldn't go anything beyond that. But yeah, mate, if you are Rory Harrington, give me a message on LinkedIn and we'll sort the whole thing out. Lovely. Gary Smith on YouTube asks, since the EU tried to close the border in Ireland, will Boris try to close the border to Scotland just for a laugh? Well, mate, he's going on he's got his trip, hasn't he? I think, was that last week? I don't know. I mean, he's so infrequently in work that it's difficult to say. But I mean, he could do it for a laugh. I mean, imagine how fucking pissed off Nicola Sturgeon would get. Oh, what a fair cross! I think it would be a great idea. I mean, I'm sure Blojo's probably already thought of it, but yeah, I will definitely ping that through. This is great, by the way. Keep those suggestions coming of ways that we can piss Labour and Scotland off. Wonderful. Hannah McLeod has a question. Hannah.
Hi, Rafe. What do you think of the Matt Hancock waffle situation? And do you think it portrays him as a poor health minister?
The what? The Matt Hancock waffle situation?
Yeah, the waffle situation when he was eating Good Morning Britain.
Oh, gosh. Sorry. Yes. No. Goodness gracious me. Sorry. Waffle is in like a style of oratory rather than some sort of food fiasco. Sorry. I thought we were in a fucking David Cameron Piggate again or something awful like Matt Cock in his hands blue waffle. It's disgusting. Don't look that up on Google. This is serious, Hannah, by the way. It's not something to laugh about. But look, Hannah, come back on, please. This is great for Tory party diversity. Put your camera back on. Great, wonderful. Listen, what do I think about Matt Cock in his hands and his and actually, God, you should be an MP. That would be brilliant. It would be great to get some diversity. And we are so set on the importance of diversity. We love it in the Conservative Party. But look, should Matt Cock in his hands learn how to speak properly? We have tried, Hannah. It's been so difficult. I've sat with him, trying to sort of get him, with a speech therapist. But, ultimately, it was accounting for sort of 2% of GDP at one point. And it just wasn't worth it, even for us. And we love spaffing money all over the place. But yeah, add me on LinkedIn. It would be great to get you a shoe into the Conservative Party. That'd be absolutely fabulous. Thank you. David Frankel says, are we going to cancel HS2? Yeah, well, so again, we just sort of let travel, just do its own thing. I mean, we sort of allocated like 1 or 2 people to it. So I didn't know a huge amount of what's going on. But would I be correct to say that HS2 is about linking the South and the North? Is that broadly? I think it is. I just sort of think, well, what's the point? Fuck it, sack it off. So yeah, I mean, just leave it unbuilt, because who's going to ultimately complain? And if they are, they probably don't matter anyway. So yeah, fuck them. Mike Reed from the Yorkshire Post. Mike Reed. Mike.
Thank you for having me. It's a terrible milestone we've passed today.
Mate. If you're not going to wear a tie, yeah, and a suit, like, why are you here? Just don't bother. If you're not going to make an effort, right, just fuck off. You look like a chopper. I mean, it's just a total waste of time. Although it does lead me very nicely onto our job start scheme, because I think you would be perfect. I mean, sack off the journalism, retrain, become a farmer. You look perfect being a farmer. Can you do for us all on the call? Just do a like top of the morning. Oh, he's gone. Okay, no, he's gone. All right, we've got one from Will Gooderham. He says, Rafe, what are your and Blojo's yearly tax returns? If you'll pardon the pun. I don't really understand that pun, mate, but that's okay. We can't all be as classic as me and Blojo. Yeah, tax return. Well, it's a bit of a misnomer. I mean, maybe that's what you were getting at, that it's a joke, as in there isn't any return. We try to make sure that HMRC get as little of the cash as possible. And, we have been consulting with Lewis Hamilton, Jimmy Carr and Gary Barlow as far as that one goes. But, it's very, very easy when Rish just works down the hallway. So, we just say, hey, Rish, can I expense this massive pound of gack? And he's like, yeah. It's not particularly difficile. That's the thing. Work on the inside. It's fine. Jamie from Berlin. God, someone from Germany. Wonderful. Jamie has got a question.
Yes. So, hi, Rafe. My question's twofold. So firstly, which facilities are you most looking forward to reopening? And then secondly, which facilities do you reckon we just, sack off, keep them closed? Yeah.
Well, thanks very much. Thanks very much, Jamie. It's a very interesting question. Which facilities will we just sack off and don't really matter? I mean, for a very long time, I've been a real advocate of getting rid of the state schools. I don't think they matter so much, because we get the leaders from the good ones. So, ultimately they don't really, who cares, right? So, I think that would probably be a good use of taxpayers' money to get rid of that. Obviously all of Soho's nightlife it'll be excellent to return to there. And drug dealers, obviously, I guess they're not a facility, but it'll be great to get in touch with those guys as well. Valerian Adore, Blojo to call Keir Starmer on next PMQs. I mean, I've always loved Keir Farmer after his donkey thing, in the papers. I think that's probably. I mean, Queer Starmer is obviously an option, which is very funny. I think it's one of those two. I think Blojo will probably prefer the latter rather than the former. Robert from Andover asks, is Matt Cock in his hands actually sitting on the loo when he's on the BBC? No, mate, he's just chronically anxious. I mean, to be fair, he's actually got a real sort of anxiety thing around loos because Billy Patel has flushed his head into one so many fucking times. I mean, he's literally terrified. It's not even male pattern baldness. It's just so stressed, just falling out. He had a full head of hair before COVID came. So the guy is he's just incredibly jittery. But could be solved with anxiety by bullying him less? Yes, but that's our therapy. That's how we get through the pandemic. So I think that's it's just not really possible. Okay, so great stuff. On the whole, guys, definitely light at the end of the tunnel. We'll keep doing our bit. And, if you actually sort of knuckle down and you do your bit for a change, things might look pretty good. So, I'll be back here next Sunday. Do ask questions, do submit questions to ask live on my Twitter. Look out for that. And, I look forward to seeing you chaps then. Cheers. Ciao. Hoppy, that tech was fucking shit. Why is that so sloppy? It needs to be better than that. Fucking idiot.